What is the deal, beautiful people? It's your boy Uncle Reza in the building with the Final Fantasy 15. Now, this is not what I would call an in-depth review. There's way too much going on in this game to even try to level it for you. But what I can do is I can tell you how dope this game is, how much I love this game. Now, to give you some perspective on where I'm coming from, I used to be a big Final Fantasy fanboy. We're talking Final Fantasy 5, 6, 7, and then Tactics. I dabbled in 8 a little bit, but I didn't really like it much. I couldn't connect with the characters and the storyline. But nonetheless, I've been around in the universe for a while, and I stayed away from a lot of the newer Final Fantasies because I didn't like that push to the real-time fighting. That was never my thing. I always liked the turn-by-turn stuff. And the thing about that is I always viewed it as strategy, and you really needed to plan out your next move. Here in Final Fantasy 15, they did include a turn-by-turn mode. I think they call it the wait mode or whatever it is, just to let you know how good the combat system is in this game. I have not turned it on yet. I have fully acclimated to the real-time fighting that's going on here, and I love it. There's so much about this game that I find pulls me back into things I didn't think I would like, but I do like. So the combat system is dope. You know, you've got these 4 people in your party most of the time, and they've got a lot of teamwork between them, and it's super dope. I would say it's easy to get into, but it's not over easy. So you attack by holding the circle button, and he does various combos, and then you guard by holding the square or the X on the Xbox. And there's things about it that really, depending on the enemy you're fighting, makes it not that simple, right? So you still need to pay attention to your enemies and knowing when to dodge and phase and stuff like that. So that's dope. Then there's the open world aspect of this game. I don't like open world games. I don't like the just randomness that it gives me, and not I don't mean the randomness going on around me. I mean like there's no real direction for me to head in. I like to have a flow, a feeling of, okay, here's my next move, and that's usually why I don't play open world games. But this, I'm loving this all the way. There's a good bit of map sourcing back and forth, and you head into each town's got like a diner, and he reveals locations for you to camp at where you can pretty much stay the night and regenerate your health and stuff like that. It's a lot of dope stuff, and each town's got their own bounties that you can do. And bounties, I think, are another important part of the game that I haven't seen in any of my favorite Final Fantasy. So traditionally speaking, the way you get money is you just beat up on random ass creatures and swamps and shit, and you get gil. That never really made sense. These things aren't even human. How the hell do they have money to reward you for kicking their ass? Here, the only way you really get money is to go on these bounties to sort of help that village or that town of something that was pretty much menacing the place, and they give you a good bit of money for that. And then you can also sell a lot of the trinkets and stuff that you find on your way around on your journeys and whatnot. So that's cool. And that really, that's an important thing, because money's hard to come by. So you sort of pay attention to what you spend your money on in this game, which is also dope. Then there's there's pretty much the characters. From the get-go, I sort of connected with this kid Noctis, and he's the prince. Now the king, his father got his ass kicked, so now he's coming into his own, and he's running around trying to figure out the politics behind what happened and what's going to happen. And then there's Gladius, who's pretty much the king's guard, this big ass dude with this big ass butcher knife, and he don't play games. There's Ignis, who I guess, I don't know, I kind of see him as the caretaker of Noctis, but he's smart and he does the cooking, and he has the wise advice, and he's a good dude. And then there's Prompto, who's Noctis's high school friend. This kid walks around with a camera and a gun, so he's constantly shooting, and I think it's a dynamic between them that's really dope. Whether they're in combat, the things they're saying, the storylines that are evolving, or even when they're just riding around in the car. And then there's that car, the Regali. It's this royalty, sort of like a Rolls Royce type of thing, or a Bentley. And they rock out in this car, and this car becomes a piece of you, like the storyline. And you can upgrade it, you can give it new paint, you can paint the wheels, all type of crazy shit you can do with this car, and it's just dope. It just becomes a part of you, and that's how you get from place to places in the car. But there's also the chocobos, which I explained to Snow. I waited almost 15 years to ride a fucking chocobo. this shit is so dope. You can rent one, and you give him a name and a color and all type of shit, and he's always there. You can whistle for him, and that, I think, is a dope dynamic, because there are parts, there are missions, or when you're in a town or vicinity, your car's parked. You can't just use your car to traverse the terrain. There's where you call your chocobo, and he sort of holds it down. You know what I mean? Like that he gets you from place to place super quick. So I think that's all so dope. There's a summons in the game, which I'm gonna click under 20 hours, so I'm full speed ahead with the summons, and this shit is super dope, man. I like how they reimagine summoning here. In older Final Fantasy, summoning used to be this big deal where you would call down this fucking guardian, and it would just damage everyone on the board, or all the enemies at least, or it would do major damage to the bosses. And this is pretty much the same thing here, but the difference is you only get to call them as like a lifeline, when you're down and out. And my god, these sequences are madness. They did such a good job with it. It's definitely dynamic to the environment that you're in, and it's breathtaking every single time I see it. And then the dope thing about it is they're random summonses. Like, you don't get the same one twice. So I'm really looking forward to uncovering a lot more of that stuff as time goes on. But like I said, there's too much to go into detail about this game, but the gameplay is amazing. The combat system just works. It's so much fun, and it continues to evolve. The pacing of the storyline, the gameplay, the combat system it unlocks are all done extremely well. I don't feel like I need to farm for 4 hours to beat a specific boss. I feel like I can do 1 or 2 bounties in each town and move on and still progress nicely. I really love that about it. The storyline is unfolding really, really nice. Meeting some very interesting characters as we go. And even there's like some stealth missions here and there that really felt out of place, but then it just played out. And I was like, oh, that wasn't so bad. Everything about this game is just fucking tasteful. And of course, yes, it does look beautiful. And as always, one of my favorite things about Final Fantasy have always been the score. My god, the score in this game is amazing. The soundtrack is super dope. There's this feeling like when you step into a boss battle and you hear the music and you're just like, oh shit, this is gonna be epic. And then when you come up against one of those guardians and the soundtrack that plays, it's just, man, listen to me. This game took me by storm. I didn't expect to put in 20 hours in a weekend. It's been about a weekend. I played it. I put 4 hours in the first weekend. I was like, and then I came back and I just jumped out the window, man. This game is super dope. If you at all thinking about it, if you're on the edge, just get it. Just get it. This shit's super dope. I am thoroughly enjoying my time in Final Fantasy 15, and I don't doubt that you will too. Don't forget to like the video. Don't forget to subscribe. We got so much more content coming. My name is Uncle Rizza. I'm out of here. Peace.